The mining ship Prometheus Dawn moved slowly through the darkness between stars. Captain Miho Kim stood at the control panel looking tired. His crew of 47 people had been working in deep space for 8 months. Everyone wanted to go home. "Captain, look at this," said Hyuk, the young officer watching the screens. His voice sounded nervous. Miho walked over to see what Hyuk had found. On the display, something large floated in the empty space ahead. At first, it looked like a normal space rock. But the computer readings made no sense. "What is that?" Miho asked. Gina, the science officer, was already checking the data. Her eyes grew wide as she read the numbers. "Sir, this is impossible. The scanners show organic material, living tissue. But nothing can live in space like this." "How big is it?" Miho asked. "As big as a small moon," Gina answered quietly. The computer made the image clearer. The shape was not a rock at all. It looked like a giant person curled up like someone sleeping. The body was so huge that their entire ship would be like a tiny bug sitting on it. "This cannot be real," said Day, the engineer. He stared at the screen in disbelief. Miho felt cold fear in his chest. The object was very old. Dust and minerals covered it like a thick blanket. The computer said it had been floating in space for millions of years. But deep inside, something still showed on their sensors. A tiny bit of energy like a dying heartbeat. "We should report this," said Gina. "Let the research teams handle it." But Hannah, the first officer, had different thoughts. "Think about the money, Captain. Unknown alien materials. New technology. We found it first. The salvage rights could make us all rich." Miho knew she was right. If they reported this and left, the big companies would come. His crew would get almost nothing. But if they claimed it as salvage, they could change their lives forever. He looked at his crew. They were simple workers, not scientists. But they all had families waiting at home. They all needed money. "We go closer," Miho decided. "But carefully. Very carefully. If anything seems dangerous, we leave immediately." The ship moved toward the giant body. Hours passed. The thing grew bigger and bigger on their screens until it filled their entire view. They could see its face now, tilted back toward the stars. Its eyes were closed. Its arms crossed over its chest. It looked peaceful, like someone sleeping forever. "Captain," Gina said, her voice shaking. "I found something else. There are patterns on the surface, like writing or circuits. And inside, there are hollow spaces, empty rooms or caves, big ones." "Is it alive?" Miho asked. "No, but not completely dead either. There is still energy moving through it, like electricity in very old wires." As they got closer, everyone on the ship fell silent. They were looking at something that had once lived. Something so big that humans could not even imagine it. How did it die? What killed something this powerful? "Sir, the docking computer is having problems," Hyuk said. "The surface is moving. Just a little bit. Very slowly. Moving?" Miho felt his heart beat faster. "You mean it is alive?" "No, sir. But there are vibrations. Like breathing. Except each breath takes many hours." Miho ordered more scans. Deep inside the massive body, things were still happening. Signals moving through what might be nerves. Chemical reactions going very, very slowly. The creature was not alive. But it was still dying. After millions of years, it was still in the process of death. "Prepare the landing team," Miho said finally. "Everyone wears full protective suits. We need to know what this is." The ship attached itself to the giant's shoulder. Through the windows, the crew could see the landscape of ancient flesh stretched out forever in all directions. They had landed on something incredible. Something terrifying. They had landed on a dead god. And somewhere deep inside that enormous corpse, something still dreamed in the darkness. Miho led the first team out of the ship. 6 people walked carefully onto the surface of the giant body. Their boots touched something that looked like stone but felt different. It was smooth and cold, covered with strange patterns that might be scars or tattoos or something else entirely. "Stay together," Miho ordered through his helmet radio. "Nobody goes anywhere alone." Gina knelt down and touched the surface with her gloved hand. She had brought scanning equipment with her. The readings made her gasp. "Captain, this material is like nothing on Earth. It is harder than diamond but has organic cells inside it. Like bone but not bone. Like metal but alive once." They walked across the shoulder of the giant. The body curved away from them in all directions. Looking up, they could see the massive neck rising like a mountain. The head was tilted back, and even from where they stood, they could see the closed eyes, each one bigger than their entire ship. "There," said Day, pointing ahead. "I see an opening." Between two ridge-like structures that might have been ribs or armor plates, there was a crack in the surface. It was wide enough for a person to enter. Dark air seemed to flow out from inside. Air? Miho said with surprise. How can there be air? There should not be, Gina replied. But my scanner shows gas coming from inside. Very thin, but it is there. This body must have had some kind of atmosphere inside it when it lived. They approached the opening carefully. Miho shined his light inside. The beam disappeared into darkness that seemed to go on forever. He could see walls that curved away like a tunnel or cave. The walls had more patterns on them, glowing very faintly with a blue-green light. We go in, Miho decided. But only 50 meters. We mark our path and stay in radio contact with the ship. One by one they climbed through the crack and entered the body of the dead god. Inside was a vast cavern that might have been an organ or a chamber. The ceiling rose high above them, held up by columns that looked like bones. The floor was uneven and covered with dust that had gathered for millions of years. Their lights revealed more patterns on the walls. Now they could see clearly that these were deliberate markings. Pictures and symbols covered every surface. Some showed stars and planets. Others showed smaller creatures, aliens, with their arms raised toward something large above them. They are worshipping, Gina whispered. These pictures show worship. Then they found the first bodies. Small skeletons, not human but humanoid, arranged in a circle around a raised platform. The bones were ancient and fragile. There were dozens of them, all facing toward the center of the room where a crystal object sat on the platform. What were they doing here? Asked Hyuk nervously. Praying maybe, Gina said. She approached the crystal carefully. It was still glowing faintly. When she touched it with her scanner, the light grew brighter for a moment. This is technology. Very advanced technology. But it is also biological. It grew here like part of the body. They moved deeper into the chamber. More rooms opened before them. Some had more skeletons. Some had objects that might be tools or weapons or religious items. In one large hall, they found what looked like a library, walls covered with crystal tablets, each one containing information in a language no human had ever seen. This is incredible, Miho said, looking around in wonder. This creature was not just big. It was intelligent. And other species lived inside it. They made homes here. They worshipped it while it was alive. Suddenly the ground shook. Just a small tremor, but enough to make everyone freeze. Dust fell from the ceiling. The blue-green lights on the walls flickered and grew brighter for a few seconds. What was that? Day asked, his voice full of fear. Gina checked her equipment. Her face went pale inside her helmet. Neural activity. That was a nerve firing. The body just had a thought. A thought. Miho could not believe what he heard. But it is dead. Dying? Gina corrected him. It is still dying. And we are inside it. 3 days passed as the crew explored the massive body. They found more chambers filled with ancient technology and alien remains. Each discovery was more amazing than the last. Miho ordered teams to collect samples and map the interior passages. Nobody wanted to leave now. This find would make them famous and rich. But strange things began to happen. On the second night, a crew member named Jiho woke up screaming. The others found him sitting in his bed, shaking and covered in sweat. I heard voices, he said. Voices in my head. They were speaking in a language I do not know, but I understood them. They were praying. Begging for help. The ship's doctor gave him medicine and told him it was just a bad dream. But the next night, 3 more people had the same experience. They all heard the same voices. Ancient voices calling out in the darkness. Gina spent hours studying the neural network they had discovered running through the body. The more she learned, the more worried she became. The network was like a giant brain, but it worked very slowly. One thought might take days or weeks to complete. And their presence seemed to be speeding it up. Captain, we need to talk, she said, finding Miho in the command center. The harvesting operation is causing problems. Every time we cut into the body to take samples, we are triggering responses. Pain responses. Pain? But it is dead, Miho said. No, it is dying. There is a difference. Imagine if your death took 1,000,000 years. You would feel every moment of it. That is what this creature is experiencing. And we are making it worse. That afternoon the walls began to move. Slowly at first, then faster. Passages that had been open suddenly closed. New openings appeared where there had been solid walls before. It was like the body was rearranging itself, trying to protect something or trap something. 2 crew members got separated from their team when a wall shifted. They radioed for help, but their signals were blocked by the dense material. It took 6 hours to find them. By then, one had run out of oxygen. They pulled his body back to the ship in silence. The mood changed after that. People started to argue. Some wanted to leave immediately. Others wanted to stay and take as much as they could before going. Miho tried to keep everyone calm, but he could feel control slipping away. Then the gravity changed. In some chambers, things became heavier. In others, objects floated as if there was no gravity at all. Equipment malfunctioned. Lights flickered. Strange sounds echoed through the passages, deep groaning noises that seemed to come from everywhere at once. "The body is waking up," Gina told the captain. "Not really waking but becoming more active. Our presence is like an infection. The immune system is responding." That night the worst happened. A massive chamber that a team was exploring suddenly vented its atmosphere. The ancient air rushed out through cracks that opened in the walls. 3 people were pulled toward the opening. 2 managed to grab onto something and hold on. The third, a young woman named Sumi, was swept away into the darkness. Her screams on the radio stopped after a few terrible seconds. Miho called everyone back to the ship. "We leave now," he ordered. "Forget the samples. Forget the money. We are getting out of here." But as the crew gathered their equipment and prepared to depart, Day made a discovery that changed everything. Deep in the database he had been studying, he found information that the ancient aliens had left behind. It was a warning. "Captain, you need to see this," he said, his hands shaking as he showed Miho the translated text on his screen. "This creature is not just dying. When it finally dies completely, something bad will happen. Something very bad. The aliens who lived here wrote about it. They called it the final collapse. The body will fold in on itself and create a tear in space. Everything nearby will be destroyed." "How big is nearby?" Miho asked, though he feared the answer. "Several light years," Day whispered. "There are human colonies within range. Millions of people." Miho stared at the ancient text on the screen. His mind raced with terrible possibilities. If this creature's death would destroy everything for light years around, then innocent people would die. Colonies full of families, children, workers. All gone because of something that happened millions of years ago. "Show me everything," he told Day. "I need to know what we are dealing with." Day worked through the night, translating more of the alien records. Gina helped him understand the technical parts. Slowly, a story emerged from the ancient data. A story that made everyone on the ship feel very small and afraid. The creature they had landed on was called a star titan by the aliens who had known it. These beings were older than most stars. They had existed since the early universe, feeding on radiation and energy that humans could barely detect. They were not evil or good. They simply were living mountains of flesh and thought that drifted through space for billions of years. The ancient aliens had discovered one of these titans and were amazed. They built ships that could land on it. They created temples inside its body. Entire civilizations lived and died on its surface, worshipping it as a god. The titan allowed this, perhaps not even noticing the tiny creatures crawling on its skin. But then something hunted the titans. The records were unclear about what. Some texts called it the Cleaners. Others said it was the universe itself, correcting an error. The titans were too big, too powerful, too different from everything else. One by one they were killed or driven away. This titan had been wounded badly. It fled into empty space, far from any stars, hoping to hide. But the wound was too deep. It began to die. The process was incredibly slow because the titan was so large. Its last thought might take 1,000 years to finish. Its final breath might last for centuries. The aliens knew this would happen, Gina explained to the crew gathered in the meeting room. They found records from other civilizations who had lived on other titans. When a star titan dies, its body does not simply stop working. It collapses inward, creating a dimensional tear. Space and time break down in the area around it. "How long do we have?" asked Hannah. Day checked his calculations. "The process has already started. It began millions of years ago. But our activity here has sped things up. The pain we caused made the body react. Neural activity increased. Chemical processes accelerated. What might have taken another 10,000 years could now happen in decades or even years." "Can we stop it?" Miho asked, though he knew the answer would not be good. "There might be a way," Gina said slowly. "The aliens left instructions. They never used them because they died out before they could try. But the idea is simple: help the Titan die faster but in a controlled way." She pulled up diagrams on the screen. They showed the Titan's nervous system, a vast network of pathways that connected every part of its enormous body. "If we can stop the neural activity completely, the body will die peacefully. It will not collapse violently. Instead, it will crystallize and become stable like a neutron star. Dense but harmless. How do we stop something that big? Asked Hyuk. The aliens designed devices for this purpose, Gina continued. They are still here in the worship chambers. We found them but did not know what they were. They are neural disruptors. We would need to place them at specific points in the body and activate them all at once. The shock would stop all brain activity instantly. Miho understood what she was suggesting. We would need to go deeper into the body. Into the most dangerous areas where the neural activity is strongest. Yes, Gina said. And we would need to do it while the body is reacting to us. While it is in pain and its defenses are active. Some of us would probably not survive. The room fell silent. Everyone understood the choice before them. They could leave now and save themselves. The Titan would eventually die and destroy distant colonies, but that would not happen for years. It would not be their problem. Or they could stay and try to save millions of people they would never meet, knowing that some of them would die in the attempt. Miho looked at each face in the room. Miho called for a vote. It was only fair. He would not order anyone to risk their life for strangers on distant worlds. Each person had to choose for themselves. One by one hands went up. First Gina, then Day, then Hannah. Hyuk raised his hand slowly, fear clear on his face but determination too. More hands followed. In the end, 42 people voted to stay. Only 5 wanted to leave. Those who want to go, take the shuttle, Miho said. No shame in choosing life. But leave now because we start in 1 hour. The 5 crew members gathered their belongings. Some cried. Others looked angry. But they understood. As they left on the small shuttle, Miho watched them go and hoped they would forgive him someday. Gina had found 12 neural disruptors in the ancient chambers. They were crystal devices, still powered by energy from the Titan's own body. The aliens had placed them carefully, waiting for a day that never came for them. Now humans would finish what they started. The crew divided into 6 teams. Each team would carry 2 disruptors deep into the Titan's body. They had to reach the main neural clusters, massive bundles of nerves where the Titan's thoughts were processed. The deepest points were 20 kilometers inside the body. We have 6 hours, Gina explained. That is how long our oxygen will last. We place the devices, connect them together in a network, then get back to the ship. When everyone is safe, we activate them all at once. But they all knew not everyone would make it back. The journey into the depths was terrifying. The passages were narrow and unstable. Walls shifted without warning. Strange fluids dripped from the ceiling, the last remnants of the Titan's biology still trying to function. The temperature changed wildly from freezing cold to burning hot. Miho's team reached their position first. They placed the disruptor carefully in a chamber where massive nerve bundles converged like rivers of light. The bundles pulsed slowly, carrying thoughts that took days to complete. Miho felt sadness as he looked at them. This creature had been magnificent once. Device 1 in place, he reported over the radio. One by one, other teams reported success. Device 2, 3, 4. But Team 5 went silent. Miho called them repeatedly. Finally, a weak voice answered. It was Jiho. The passage collapsed, he said, coughing. Sora is dead. Crush. I am hurt but I placed the device. I cannot get back. My leg is trapped. We will come for you, Miho said. No time, Captain. You have maybe an hour before the body's defenses get worse. Save the others. I have done my part. Miho wanted to argue, but he knew Jiho was right. You are a hero, he said quietly. Just a miner who got lucky, Jiho replied. Now go. Finish this. Team 6 was the last. They had the longest journey in the most dangerous location, the main brain stem, deep in what would have been the Titan's skull. For 30 minutes there was no contact. Then Hannah's voice came through, broken and full of static. Device, in place. Oh, connected. Activate, when ready. Get back here, Miho ordered. Negative. Path, collapsed. We are stuck. Do it, now. Miho and the remaining crew made it back to the ship. 28 people survived the journey inside. 14 were still in the Titan's body, dead or trapped. Miho sat in the command chair, his hand over the activation switch. For those who cannot come home, he said. For those who will never know what we did here. For the millions who will live because of this sacrifice. He pressed the switch. The disruptors activated simultaneously. A pulse of energy raced through the Titan's neural network. For one brief moment, every nerve fired at once. The Titan experienced its final thought, not in years or centuries but in a single instant. And in that instant the crew felt it. A presence touched their minds. Ancient, vast, tired, and grateful. The Titan understood what they had done. It had been in pain for so long. Now finally it could rest. The body began to crystallize, folding inward but gently, becoming dense and stable. The Prometheus dawn pulled away as the transformation completed. Where a dying god had been, now floated a perfect sphere of crystallized matter, beautiful and eternal. Miho looked at his exhausted crew. They had killed a god not with weapons but with mercy. They had proven that even the smallest beings could matter to the infinite. They set course for home, carrying the weight of their lost friends and the knowledge that humanity, for all its flaws, could still choose compassion over survival.